You have been told your whole life that you are kind, easy to be around, generous, and you believed it because it felt true. But somewhere underneath all of that niceness, something else has been running quietly, something you were never given a name for. And what I want to tell you today is this: the reason being too nice pushes people away has nothing to do with being too good. It has to do with something your nervous system learned before you were old enough to choose differently. And once you understand what that is, the way you see yourself and your relationships will shift in a way that cannot be undone. Here is what most people feel but cannot explain. You give constantly. You agree when you do not agree. You smooth things over before they become conflict. You say yes when your whole body wants to say no. And yet somehow, the closer you try to get to people, the further away they seem. The relationships feel uneven, one-sided, exhausting in a way you cannot quite name. And the most painful part is that you are trying so hard. You are doing everything you are taught connection requires, and it is still not working. Here is why. What you have been calling niceness is not always niceness. Sometimes it is a performance, not a dishonest one, not a calculated one, but a performance that your nervous system runs automatically to keep you safe. Psychologists call this the fawn response, and most people have never heard of it. You probably know fight, flight, and freeze. The three classic responses your brain activates when it perceives danger. But there is a fourth, fawn. The fawn response is what happens when your nervous system decides that the safest way to handle a threat is to make the threatening person happy, to agree, to accommodate, to disappear your own needs before they can become a problem. To be so easy, so pleasant, so giving, that there is nothing left for the other person to push against. And here is the critical part. Your body does not know the difference between a physical threat and a social one. When someone seems slightly cold toward you, your nervous system responds with the same urgency as it would to genuine danger. And so fawning kicks in, not as a choice, as a reflex. Therapist Pete Walker, who first named this pattern in the context of complex trauma, described it simply. Fawn types seek safety by merging with the wishes, needs, and demands of others. They act as if they unconsciously believe that the price of admission to any relationship is the forfeiture of all their needs, rights, and preferences. Read that again. The price of admission to any relationship, forfeiture of all their needs. That is not kindness. That is a survival strategy, wearing kindness as a costume. And the people around you can feel the difference, even when they cannot name it. Here is what happens in the nervous system of the person receiving your excessive niceness. Their brain, which is also constantly running social calculations, picks up on a signal. This person is adjusting themselves to suit me. And that signal does not generate warmth. It generates something closer to unease, because authentic connection requires two real people with actual preferences, actual opinions, in actual edges. When one person has no edges, when they agree with everything and need nothing and are always fine, the other person loses the ability to orient toward them. There is nothing real to connect to. And so without realizing it, they begin to pull back. Not because they do not like you, but because the version of you they are meeting is not fully you. And some part of them knows it. there is also something happening at the level of perceived safety. In the same way that speaking less communicates internal certainty, having needs communicates self-worth. When you consistently have no needs, when you never ask for anything, when you are always the one accommodating, you are sending a signal. I do not believe my needs are worth space here. And the people around you respond to that signal, not consciously, but their nervous systems adjust their perception of your value in the relationship based on the value you assign to yourself. This is not cruelty. It is how human social calibration works. We take our cues about how to treat someone, in part, from how they treat themselves. Now, I want to be very clear about something. The fawn response is not a character flaw. It is not weakness. It is not evidence that something is fundamentally wrong with you. It is evidence that at some point, often very early in your life, you were in an environment where having needs felt dangerous. Maybe conflict in your household was unpredictable. Maybe love felt conditional. Maybe you were praised for being easy and criticized for being too much. Maybe you learned that the way to keep people close was to never give them a reason to leave. And so your nervous system built a system, a very efficient, very loyal system for keeping you safe. The problem is that system was built for a world that no longer exists, and it is still running in relationships where you are actually safe, with people who would stay even if you had a need, even if you disagreed, even if you were not always pleasant. The system does not know that. It is still protecting you from a threat that passed long ago. And in doing so, it is keeping you from the very connection you are working so hard to create. Here is the trap that closes around people who fawn without knowing it. You give and give and give, and a resentment begins to build, quietly, almost invisibly, because you are not actually getting what you need. You are just making sure everyone else is comfortable with the version of you that they see. And eventually, one of two things happens. Either you exhaust yourself maintaining the performance, or you begin to notice that the relationships you have built were built around a version of you that is not quite real. And that realization is one of the loneliest feelings a person can have. I have been giving everything and somehow still feeling unseen. That is not a coincidence. It is the direct result of a survival system that was built to keep you acceptable, not to help you be known. Here is the turning point. The relationships that hold, the connections that feel real and nourishing and mutual, are not built on niceness. They are built on honesty, not the aggressive kind, the quiet, grounded kind, the kind that says, and actually, I see it differently, the kind that says, I need something here, the kind that lets someone else see not just your generosity, but your edges, your preferences, your limits, the parts of you that are not performing. And here is what happens when you offer that. Some people will not know what to do with it because they were benefiting from your limitlessness. And those people will show you something important about the relationship, but others will lean in because finally they have something real to hold. Finally, they are meeting you, not the performance of you, you. The shift is not about becoming less kind. Kindness that comes from genuine care is one of the most valuable things a person can offer. The shift is about learning to tell the difference between kindness that comes from love and niceness that comes from fear. And then, very slowly, beginning to choose love. Even when fear says it is safer to agree, even when fear says your needs are too much, even when fear says the price of belonging is disappearing yourself, it is not. It never was. If this touched something in you, I want you to know that recognizing the pattern is already a form of coming home to yourself. Leave a comment if this resonated. I genuinely read them all. And if you know someone who gives everything and still feels unseen, share this with them. Sometimes the most generous thing we can do is help someone understand why their generosity is not reaching the people they love. This is Emotions and Decisions. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.